right, we're right over here.
Oh.
Eye moving, baby. Hey everybody, I'm Shane. This is Jeremy Moskowitz. This guy is the MVP for group policy. He owns Policy Pack. Those of you who know GP answers, I know I've been out there many times throughout the years. This is the man right here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's super great to be here. We've been here for a couple days, shooting some videos, talking shop, talking about desktop management, and I guess that's where you guys come in to figure out, to help, well, not play Stump the Chump exactly, but to help get questions answered. And I'll do my best, and if I don't know the answer, I just tell you I don't know, as opposed to trying to make something up. I'd rather not send you off in the weeds if I really don't know how to do something.
That's opposite of Lex, who will just break into a soliloquy.
Yeah. I could try that, but I'm not going to. So I'll do my best, my level best, to try to answer all of your questions and see how we do. And I will also try, if I don't know the answer to your question, I haven't actually asked my moderator friends if they'll do this for me, but if I don't know the answer to your question, I will give it the old college try to research it and get back to you. But in order for me to get back to you, you'll have to coordinate with my handler friends to be able to get your email address to them, and they'll coordinate your question. And like I said, I'll do my best to try to get your question answered.
All right.
Okay.
All right, well, let's go ahead. Who's going to read the questions? Hey, Kelly, go for it, dude.
All right, this question has made it all the way up the charts and landed at number 1. Is there a way through group policy or third-party apps to limit the size of specific folders for users? We would like to avoid limiting user profile size if possible. Any insight would be appreciated. Brian S.
Brian S. Keeping his name very anonymous for good reason. Okay, so actually this is kind of two questions in one the way I read it. One is, how do I limit user profile size? And the other one is, how do I limit specific folders? There's actually two questions, and it has two answers. So user profile size, in fact, is a policy setting. I don't know where it is. We could try to poke around and find it. Or we could GTS or Google that stuff. We could try to find that. But there's also a way to do, there is in fact a way to limit folder sizes in general, and that's through the disk quotas mechanism. It's been 8 million years since I've done this, so I'm not going to fumfer around on the keyboard too much. I am going to show you the kind of search term that I did a preliminary research on this one just to be, because I got this question in advance. So if you do say folder quotas, Windows Server 2003 R2 this came out in. I found a good article that kind of walked me through this thing here. So this is not my book. Like I said, I got this question in advance, gave me a couple seconds to research it, and I did find it. And long story short, it does require that you install a component first, the file server management console into the server. I actually have no idea if this thing still works on 2008 or later. I really don't know, but it should anyway, at least I would guess.
Props on your Google Foo, by the way.
I know, seriously, right? And then, long story short, it's pretty cool. You can actually do it based on a drive cap, or you can do it on a folder. When disk quotas originally came out, which was Windows 2000, you could only do it on the whole disk mechanism. But like I said, I did a little searching to make sure I could at least try to answer this one. And this article does seem to walk all the way through it. If not on an old and crusty server, it may be translatable to a new and shiny server. So that would be my answer for the folder piece. For the profile piece, there is a profile quota group policy setting.
You can quote there.
Oh, well, you can quote group policy too. There is one. It's limit profile size of group policy. There's definitely a way to do that. This is, again, not my article. It is called limit profile size, and here we go. Limit profile size, that's the guy you're after. And this thing does work from Windows 2000 all the way through to
Sweet.
Windows 10. I did test it. In fact, I wrote about it in my book, tested it out. It does continue to work all the way through to Windows 10. So if I'm nailing your question, two parts. Like
on this camera.
Oh. Why would you do that to me? I'm talking to this camera. That's not fair. Coming back over here.
I'm just trying to piss you off.
Seriously, I'm going to keep talking over here just to piss you guys off. No. So long story short, if you're trying to limit, in general, folder sizes, you're going to go with the first thing I demonstrated. If you're looking to specifically hone in profile sizes, this thing does work. It does have a slightly different behavior based on each operating system. I did test this out. I can't remember precisely what the differences are, but that's why God invented pen and paper.
But you got a great starting point right there.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's in the book in excruciating detail in the profiles chapter.
All right.
So there you go.
Rock on.
Okay.
Next question.
This next question was big in the UK, and now it's here in the USA. Accidental system admin deleted a GPO from SYSVOL manually, thus causing massive replication errors across the other DCs and causing other GPOs to not replicate nor enforce settings. Authoritative restore from PDCe did not resolve the issue. Any ideas how to fix this snafu? Love, Josh M.
Josh M. Okay, so obviously somebody gets a spanking in this scenario.
Fire the accidental sysadmin. Step 1.
Technically, this shouldn't have caused the devastation you're describing. Let me just say that out loud. I think that's important to recognize. In fact, if we take this question back a couple steps, one of the things that people ask me a lot is, group policy not applying for XYZ reason, why is that not the case? And if I were to put all the cases in a blender and centrifuge all the top ones to the top, the number 2 reason, other than I just didn't link it to the right place or I did something stupid, is replication isn't working as expected. So let me say that a different way. Group policy doesn't work and enforce things correctly, or at least deliver the settings correctly, if replication isn't doing its thing. Because when you create a new GPO on any given domain controller, say you right-click, you create a new GPO here, you call it, hello 123, what's happening is that 2 things are happening at the same time. One thing is getting written to SYSVOL, another thing is getting written to Active Directory, and they're being replicated from machine to machine. Okay, so then your endpoint wakes up in the morning or logs on and you are getting group policy, and it's asking some domain controller for both of those components. And if you don't have both of those components, you don't get the GPO. Fine. So said again, if you don't have good replication, then you don't have good group policy. And what's the foundation for good replication? DNS. DNS, having a healthy DNS and making sure that that's all nice and situated is definitely the kind of the precursor to ensuring that group policy is going to work. So, like I said, if it's typically not group policy's fault that group policy is not working, it's very often that replication is not doing so well. So now let's go back to this guy's question. Josh, right?
Yeah, Josh M.
So Josh M. So basically, what I read into your question, I'm reading the idea of okay, somebody did something naughty that they shouldn't do in SYSVOL, and therefore replication is causing a problem. Now there's 2 kinds of replication, but these things are generally troubleshot through a variety pack of tools. I have an article on this on the PolicyPack website because, as a lot of you know about PolicyPack, it rides the light, or can ride the light, of group policy. So we very often get a support question of why might it not be working? And we do have this as a question from time to time. So if I look up replication, I have a quick fix article, troubleshooting group policy replication problems, because this is a fundamental skill to figure out why group policy isn't applying, and some of these ideas may be applicable to help you troubleshoot your way out of the problem that you currently have. So by way of example, you're looking for different pieces. You can run DC Diag, you can run GPO tool, a bunch of these utilities, and then honestly, at the end of the day, it could be worthwhile to just pick up the phone and call Microsoft. The way I like to put it is that there is no more problems that Microsoft does not know how to resolve with Active Directory and replication. Every circumstance has been achieved, every problem has been discovered, they've documented them all, and you are not a unique snowflake anymore. So for $300 or whatever it is to call Microsoft and get this problem handled, I heartily recommend it. Okay, so that would be my general gist on this one.
Synchronization. It's funny how that's like the network is always blamed on something.
Yeah.
The poor network guys are always
right.
Synchronization really is the cause, or at least the area you should be looking for so many issues with group policy and DNS. We tell people with our products all the time.
Yeah.
Really, DNS is part of your foundation, and if it's not working, it's gonna cascade all over the place.
If group policy is the baseball game, you gotta get into the parking lot to get into the baseball game, and DNS is the car driving into the parking lot. You can't even get to the baseball game without a nice DNS and then replication working correctly. I don't know, maybe that analogy sucks, but that's what I'm going with. So
we're still gonna go to Boston.
I think that's gonna be awesome.
All right. Next question, you guys. Rock it on. Read it a little faster, Kelly.
And our next question comes from Wendy F. I need to apply a user-based policy to only a few specific computers. What is the best way to do this? The specific policy needed is to disable creating of an OST file when Outlook is started on shared conference room computers.
Okay, this is a very common question in terms of how do I do this thing? And there's the kind of not possible way, and then there's the third-party tool way. I don't know how else to describe it. So let's go over the not possible way first. So, like,
I love that term.
Yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. So here's your scenario. You've got a bunch of computers, and you've got training room, which is kind of the equivalent of what you're describing. And what you're saying is you want to create a new GPO, and you want to do user-side stuff to these computers. You with me so far? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's her question. So you right-click, you click Edit here, and you've got nothing but computers in the training room. You with me so far? Oh, yeah. So Kelly's thinking. Kelly, is that her name? No. What's her name? Wendy. So Wendy's thinking, okay, cool. I'll click on policies, admin templates. It doesn't matter what the setting is. It doesn't really matter. Let's pretend you wanted to.
It's in the user configuration.
Yeah. It's in the and so she clicks on some user configuration thing, like kill the control panel or whatever the OST file thing is. You have the policy setting, but you know what? This is not going to work. This is the not possible way to do this thing because computers can't eat user side things. Okay, computers can't eat user side settings. Now you can do that if you force what's called loopback on. The problem with loopback, I could spend like an hour on loopback, and I do in my group policy live training class. The problem with loopback is that it takes the engine, and now the entirety of the engine is going from what we call normal mode to loopback mode. And it means that you're doing different kinds of processing, perhaps longer processing, and also getting a bunch of GP settings that you're not expecting at all. So I know this is what you want to do. You want to take a group policy object, link it over to where computers are, and do a user-side thing. Now you can't do that natively, but you can with PolicyPack. So let me show you how you do that. So here on the computer side here, you can go to PolicyPack, and we have our tool called the PolicyPack Admin Template Manager. This is one of the components that's included as part of the suite when you become a PolicyPack customer. And this is crazy, so stick with me on this one. You can just go to right-click, New, Add Policy, and of course you would expect to get all the same stuff that I'd see, say, on the computer side of the fence, right? All the stuff that exists on computer side, like for instance, system and disk quotas that we just talked about, and file system, all these computer side things. But we have a magic button right here called User Policy. And now what you can do is take all the user side stuff, so for instance, control panel, prohibit access to the control panel, or your special user setting that you have imported, double click it, say enabled, and click OK, and look what we're doing. Just to put a fine point on it, we're taking this user side function and driving it into computers. And I'm telling you, you can only do this magic with PolicyPack's special sauce.
Yep. And guess what? Free at no extra charge, we are coming out with some new videos for you.
Yes,
right?
That's what we worked on yesterday.
They're going to be published here in the next few days, I'd assume. And a lot of these things are going to be covered in those videos, Wendy. But head out to PolicyPack. I mean, there's a reason why so many people use this add-on.
Yeah, I can show you exactly where to see the live demonstration of this, Wendy. So if you go to Products and then Components, the component you're after is the one we just talked about, Admin Template Manager. Okay, Admin Template Manager. And then here's the thing you want: deliver user-side settings to any computers. Does that seem like it solves your problem? So that's
exactly.
Loopback without loopback. We have a little demonstration here. A little video comes up, and you can actually see this in real time if you want to check it out for yourself.
Cool.
Thanks, Wendy.
Next question.
Long-time listener, first-time caller Nate B. wanted to ask Jeremy if there is a few bread and butter policies he wouldn't live without.
Okay.
Oh, I like that question.
Yeah, me too. I like that one too. Thanks, Nate. Yes, I actually have a favorite one. Can you believe in all the policy settings I actually have a favorite one?
He has a favorite child.
I do. So if you take a look at computer side policies, admin templates, system. Is it under logon or group policy? Let me take a look. It's called, if I can find the one I'm after, of course, now that I'm live and I've got 7,000 people looking at me. It used to be called turn on verbose mode, and now it's got a slightly different name now. Let's see if I can find the darn thing. The name changed, like I said, and now I'm trying to find it in real time. Anyway, it used to be called verbose mode, so that'll help me find it pretty fast if I look up here. So if I look up group policy verbose logging, not logging.
You want mode?
Yeah, let me try verbose. Yes, this is it. So this is somebody else's blog entry on it, so they found it too. And this is it. So it's called display highly detailed status messages. That's it. So it used to be called verbose mode. Now it's called display highly detailed status messages. And it's great that I can just Google and find somebody's thing. And what it does is it takes this annoying please wait and tells you what the heck is happening underneath the hood. Now there is a caveat about this. Actually, two things. One, I had a customer tell me after I have this part of the group policy class, and he emailed me after my live group policy training and said, after I implemented this, I got phone calls from people saying how happy they were because things were just magically faster. And they're not faster, but instead of please wait, they're actually seeing activity, which I think is pretty cool.
But you can also help find out if something is taking a long time. You can see right there, even just feedback from the user, which is often not helpful.
Right.
To say, why is it taking so long on applying folder redirection or something?
Yeah. Now the thing is, now there is a trick about this, which is that it doesn't always tell you the thing that's, like for instance, if this thing was spinning here for 6 minutes, it doesn't actually mean that this is the problem. It could mean the thing before this was the problem. Like it's jumped. It's trying to jump to this, but the thing before this actually had a problem.
So the thing, it flagged as it was done, moving on to the next one, but it's actually not done.
Right.
And, okay.
That's the trick. So when you turn this thing on, which it's better than nothing. At least you know what's going on. So this is my favorite one.
We do have logs to look for the other stuff, actually.
That's right. There's lots of group policy logging opportunity, but this is my favorite GPO possible setting. So
cool. Good question, Nate.
Yeah.
Next one.
Former Backstreet Boy Nick T wanted to ask, is there a way through group policy to set users' recycling bins to permanently delete files after X age? We have users that will leave files in their recycling bin forever and end up creating large user profiles over time.
Yes, so there's not a way to do precisely what you're after, but I think what you're after is there is a setting that will remove the profile after a certain number of days. So if we want to delete profile after number of days, group policy. Here we go. So this is my friend Alan's blog. He's in Australia, and he's another WhipSmart group policy MVP. And so this is the setting. It's called delete user profiles older than a specified number of days on system restart.
But he was saying, what about emptying the recycle bin?
Yeah, I know. Well, I can't do that, but I can get you this far.
So you can piss off your users by just deleting the profiles if they don't empty their recycle bin.
Right. So, but here's the it's.
I like that. Actually.
Yeah.
Lex, you now have to one up this one.
But the deal is that if the guy hasn't logged on in say 31 days to this machine, chances are he's not logging on anymore. Does that make sense?
Well, no, I think, but was the question more? They keep on throwing. They never empty their recycle bin, and so it just keeps getting full.
That's right. That's what he's asking. But I don't know how to give him that. But I do know how to say. Because I think because
they will just recreate the new profile.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. There's actually kind of
like the way you think.
There's kind of a fun story about this profile setting. It came out in Vista timeframe, and when I just happened to know this, I don't know why. In Vista timeframe, when this thing shipped, and you put, let's say, delete user profiles older than, say, 3 days, it would count to 3 and then delete it, as opposed to 3 days after the guy logged on.
Oh, that's
so
fantastic.
in 3 days, it would just nuke the guy's profile, and that's probably not what we were after.
We're getting feedback in the ear here, guys, just so you know.
Oh, I'm okay. Okay, great. That's. I hope that answers that question for you.
Let's go through that one a little faster on the question.
All right, next question, Dakir B. We have renamed local administrator account to something like question mark. How can we change local admin password on all of our workstations using PDQ? GPO does no longer support local admin password reset as per MS 14-025. Vulnerability in group policy preference could allow elevation of privilege. May 13, 2014.
All right, so the question is, how can we change the local admin password on all our workstations using PDQ? To do that, yeah, you can use PDQ inventory using a remote command, or you could use PDQ deploy and deploy a command step that just changes that using net user administrator. But you're still having that password in there. I kind of want to pick your brain on this because I know you spent a lot of time on an Ignite last year on this.
I did.
I'm going to turn it over to you because I think you're going to talk about laps.
That's exactly right. So there is a best practice around this now. So Microsoft created this thing in their consulting practice, and then they actually brought it to the product team, and now this is a real thing. And what I mean by a real thing is that this is something that if you implement, Microsoft will support you. So it's called LAPS, or Local Admin, and I'm just typing LAPS in here. And so It's called the local admin password solution. And I do cover this in ridiculous, mind-boggling detail in my group policy book and also my group policy training class. But basically, in short, here's how this thing works. There's a little moving part that's called a client-side extension, and that gets installed in all of your endpoints. Then there's a little Active Directory extension schema extension that will store these passwords, and then coordination between basically the endpoint will every so often, I think it's you can set the number of days, will rotate the admin password and get this, store that local admin password inside Active Directory in a protected field. So then you think, okay, I'm now storing my passwords in a protected field. How do I get them out? Well, in the same way we're like people under, like if you have a file that has, like, say, salary information, that's under NTFS permissions, right? I can't read your salary information if I'm just some garden variety engineer or something. Same idea. I can't read the local passwords unless I've got access to a group, and I'm going to make it up, called password getters or whatever. And there's a little utility that you can use to connect to Active Directory to say, read the password for this computer account, or if you really know what you're doing, and you have the rights, you can then poke through an Active Directory and find the current local password for that computer account. So LAPS is definitely the way to go, and it really works as advertised, and I really think it's great.
I think the issue was people thought that the previous setting that they could set the password in Active Directory, and they thought it was encrypted.
Right. Well, it was encrypted. It just
There was a published break for it.
That's exactly right. So what happened is that when you use what's called the C password fields in group policy preferences, and there are a wide variety of items that use C password fields, the items are encrypted. They are encrypted with an AES whatever key, but that key is well known, and you can reverse that and therefore get the password. So said another way, any given secretary or engineer or anybody could, with a little scripting, read the C password fields in group policy and extract them and then use it against you. So if the bad guys come in and they're not really a part of your organization, that would give them an attack vector. So long story short, the new guidance is to not use group policy preferences to do this anymore, and now to use LAPS. LAPS is the now sanctioned by Microsoft way to correctly rotate the passwords, store them securely, and get you on that road.
Is there a particular version of will this only work on 2008 R2 and higher?
That's on the client. So basically, it's Windows 7 and later.
7 and higher.
Yep,
okay.
yep. So this is
because it's a CSE.
It's a CSE. So there's no just like anything you do with group policy. Okay, group policy does not care about the domain mode, the functional level, domain type. When you add new things to the group policy ecosystem, if it's LAPS or a third-party tool like PolicyPack, it does not care what domain controller types, domain mode, or functional level. None of that matters. All that matters is the moving part on the client machine.
Cool. Next question.
Next question. Currently using Server 2012 for domain controllers, want to update ADMX templates to support Windows 10 features. However, when I replace the files on SYSVOL, Windows Update policy breaks. How do I fix?
Let me concentrate on that for a second. Can you leave the question back on the screen for me? Okay, so you've updated the ADMX template support for Windows 10 features, and when you replace them, Windows Update policy breaks. Well, I'm going to have to get a little more data on this. First, to put a fine point on it, this should not happen. It should not break. The guidance and let me also go back a couple more steps. I just said it 2 seconds ago in the last question. Group policy doesn't care what domain controller type you have. That's not germane to ADMX files, so it shouldn't matter. So now I'm reinterpreting this as, I downloaded the latest ADMX files, and some of the policy settings I'm after are not present. I'm going to go with that as the question. So if that's what's happening, you may be doing it wrong. And the guidance around ADMX updating is typically, you did it once and you're doing it again. And what I mean by that is, you did it once and you've established the central store. Great. Then new policy settings, ADMX comes out. What you shouldn't do is remove the entire ADMX folder and put it back in with the new stuff. No, that's not what you should do. What you should do is leave the current one in place and copy overwriting anything that's older and leaving stuff that's old in place, that you are not overwriting. I think if you do that technique, then you won't have this problem because you will not be really replacing files, you'll be augmenting files. And if you augment those files, I think you may get to the goal. So that's my answer.
Cool. Don't rip and replace. And that was Broman9. I like that name. Hey, Kelford.
Hi.
Hey, buddy.
We're finding a question from Jason S.
Hey,
I
Jason.
have some old printers mapped to our user profiles via script. I have tried a loopback policy to apply a user GPO to a computer OU, but have had no such luck. What am I doing wrong?
Kind of had the same question previously.
We did, and we have another answer for it, which is even better. So let's.
Thanks, Jason. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Indeed. So let's establish what your problem is. I have a very clear understanding of what it is and a very clear fix. So this is so here's your problem. Your problem is you've got a bunch of computers, and what you're trying to do is you want to do user side shared printers to computers. Do you feel like that's the right interpretation of his problem?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you right-click and click Edit here, I'm going to show you what exists on the user side and what exists on the computer side. On the user side, you've got preferences and you've got printers and a printer type new of shared printer. And this is what you want to do. But if you go over to the computer side and go to Preferences and go to Printers here, right-click New, no shared printers. Gosh, wouldn't it be amazing if you could take the user-side shared printers and get them over to your computers? Wouldn't that be amazing? And we have an answer for that. There's a PolicyPack way to do that. And again, it's only in PolicyPack because PolicyPack has a special method of its engine that once the user is logged on, we call back and get computer-side stuff. So let me show you where this is.
Without having to use the more risky loopback.
Yes, right, because loopback's going to increase not just the one printer you want, but tons of other settings you don't want. Okay.
While he's looking this up, I remember one time he demonstrated to me, this was last year, he said, here's just something that will happen with a loopback. And I saw it right there. I had no idea that was going to happen. And you're like, this is a way you can really screw up your environment.
So if you want to see the video of this in action to solve your exact problem, if you go to Support in PolicyPack land, Video Learning Center, okay, if you go to our on-premise product, we have a thing called Preferences Manager, and under Preferences, Tips and Tricks, I know it's a long way to go. This is what it is. Deliver GP prefs items without using loopback mode. Okay? And without demonstrating the entire video, what you do is you create a printer item, you copy it, and then you use PolicyPack to deliver that to your endpoints. And because we've got that special sauce that is not in the Microsoft box, we can do user-side stuff for your computers, and this is a very common thing that people use us for.
I'm gonna before we get into another question, I want to drive this home to people. Now we have a lot of obviously PDQ deploy. A lot of you use PDQ deploy, and you get Java, you get Flash, you get Firefox out to all your systems, and you can do it in minutes using our software. Very common questions that we get, however, how can I enforce certain sets of policies for Firefox or for Java? Without having to, there's some ways you can do it by copying some certain files here and there, but how can I centrally manage this? Centrally manage, and we love to tell people PolicyPack is the way to go. And I just want to drive that home.
Thank you.
I haven't had a question about it, but I'm gonna now throw this in there. PolicyPack is fantastic. There you go.
I appreciate that very much.
If you use group policy, this is just a natural add-on.
Yeah, we try to think of ourselves as the natural successor to what's in the box for group policy preferences and group policy, but also extending it past what it was originally designed to do. Mm-hmm. So to follow up what you were just driving at, by way of example, you deploy Firefox using PDQ, but then you need to manage the heck out of it, like certificates, homepage, update behavior, and so on. All the about config settings, just every damn thing about Firefox we can do.
How many people say I want to block all but a few add-ons, etc.?
We can do all that.
See?
Yep, we can do all that.
That's the cool thing, because you've got, with PolicyPack, you deploy Firefox out to your computer, but guess what? With PolicyPack and your group policy, you can manage both the computer side and the user side, and that's where that marriage just is beautiful.
It's once you start feeling around with it, people just like, where's this been my whole life? So I appreciate you saying so.
Rock on. We have any more questions?
And our next question, dear Jeremy and Shane, how does the performance of item-level targeting queries compare to using WMI queries for filtering?
I like
the
it.
same
Me too.
or better? Does ILT use WMI queries?
Oh.
SAME.
SAME.
Okay, SAME. All right, let me go ahead and let me do a demo on this real fast here. And switch over to the...
I love item-level targeting.
Yeah, me too. And we're going to talk about that in excruciating detail in about 2 seconds. So, okay, Sam's question is, gosh, Jeremy, if I've got any given group policy object, let's say I've got Chrome here and I've got some settings in there, when I use WMI filters, what's my performance penalty for doing that? Well, it depends on what you're trying to look up. So said another way, WMI is a way to query the state of the machine. But WMI is really a database under the hood. Have you ever done a real database query? It can take several milliseconds to several seconds or longer, depending on what you're trying to do. For instance, there's a famous one called Win32 product, which takes over 30 seconds to recall out. So for instance, if you only wanted to deploy these settings when Chrome was actually there, that's going to cost you a lot in terms of logon time. If you're trying to do other things, it might be short. So you might...
The OS query is one of the faster ones.
OS query is reasonably fast, but if you want to like only deploy these settings when Chrome is present, that's kind of a pain in the neck. So that's the first thing. The second part of his question is, how fast is item level targeting? And item level targeting is found, say, in group policy preferences on any given item. So for instance, if I were to look at, say, shortcuts and create, just for temporary sake, a new shortcut item, doesn't really matter what I'm doing here. I just want to get some data in here so I can click on the Common tab. If you click on item level targeting and group policy preferences, each one of these things, like for instance, if you want to do the there's an MSI lookup here somewhere. There it is, MSI query or a file match. Each one of these things, they evaluate to about 30 milliseconds on average. So this is a lot more predictable.
30 milliseconds, but I want it now.
Well, that was it. You lost the amount of time, right? You're never going to get that back. So about 30 milliseconds for each evaluation in item level targeting. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, great. How do I then take the power of item level targeting and drag it backward into admin templates? Does that make sense, what I'm asking? Yeah. So like for instance, if you wanted to take any given setting that you had, for instance, here under policies, admin templates, that you might have Google as a template already, or you might have, remove access to the control panel. Well, this is yet another thing that, sorry if it sounds like a commercial message, but these are the things that people want to do, which is why we've enhanced Policy Pack to do this, is again, if we go back to the admin template manager, what you can do here is it will read all of the current admin templates you have in your local or central store, and let's say you want to take any given setting, let's say you want to do control panel again, and prohibit access to the control panel. And you're in prohibit access to the control panel, we've got this little magic button after you click enabled called item level targeting. Where do you think we got that from? Okay, and then it will only do this thing when that condition is true. So for instance, if before it would cost you 30 milliseconds to do an MSI query lookup, now you simply pick it, whatever you want. Let's pretend, this is the thing. If I only want to do these settings when this condition is true, this evaluation will cost you only 30 milliseconds. So this gives you an amazing way to reduce the amount of group policy objects, plus give you the ability to say, under these conditions, do these things, all in one group policy object. So really reduce the amount of GPOs.
You know one of the things I love about Policy Pack is that you already know the experience that your customers are going to be are used to with group policy.
Yeah.
So you guys go to extra lengths to make it look the same.
You know how to use it already.
Yes.
Yep, you already know how to use it. That's sort of the bonus.
And actually, I've also talked to a handful of your customers. When you weren't there, we were talking about
Yes,
you.
please.
You were laughing. And hysterically in some cases.
Yes.
But actually, they've all said that the support turnaround is quite impressive.
We try our best. Thank you for saying so. I appreciate that.
Do we have any more questions?
Our next question, which tool can I use to document my group policies and their configured values? Sincerely, Timo S.
Timo.
Hey, Timo.
So there's not there's not a lot to offer in terms of like documenting the current state of affairs. Like I know what you're after. Like you want to create what's called, I like to call it your group policy map, right? What's the story right now? And then you want to know like over time what has everything drifted to. I know what you're after. That doesn't exist. That would be really very difficult to know. But you can do something that's sort of an alternative. What you can do is you can do one by one, take a representative sample. So you could use the group policy results reports by creating a new group policy results wizard here. And actually, I don't know if this is going to work because if the firewall is not as closed on the machine, I won't be able to get to it. Let's pretend I wanted to get information about this computer and the current user I'm on. And you would do this on a representative example set of a variety pack of machines and user combinations. And like I said, I lightly call this my map, okay? And this gives you like the current state of affairs. The problem is that there's no way to sort of get it. Notice how I had to do this one by one and one by one, and that sounds like work. So we did try to solve that problem actually, and we didn't. We never even talked about
Yeah,
this.
because that's how I usually have to do it, and it's like kind of a pain.
Yeah, so we have this tool called the Group Policy Compliance Reporter here, and what it will do, it's got two different modes. From your machine, you can, we call it firing the machine gun against every computer, and it will return back their current RSOP set, and then lets you test against something to say, do I have this setting on those machines? Oh, I do? Well, then I'm compliant. Oh, I don't? I better fix that. Okay, so that's the first mode. And the second mode is we can automatically push up everybody's RSOP to a server, and then from your machine, you can just query the server instead of querying each machine directly.
Now, there's a lot of data in the registry, right?
Yep.
Because actually using PDQ inventory with proper registry scanners that you configure, you can be able to you can say I want to know what policies have been pushed down to which machines, etc., and you can have that all up in a report based off your entire organization. It's just based off of a registry scanner.
Yep. So there you go. Multiple ways to achieve the goal of what's going on, either in the box or third-party tool. But there's no way to sort of say like, what's the state of affairs across my network? I understand what you're after. I don't know of a tool that does that.
The State of the Union. I want to interject a quick one in here. I like what you were showing. Pulling up like per computer. If you've seen one really big win that is really easy to show to a new Active Directory person who's just getting into group policies, something that, just a really quick demonstration right here, show it, something that you see most of the people in your classes going, that was awesome, I didn't know that existed. Can you think of one?
Inside the group policy editor, I'm going to turn it around.
Or even from a command line.
Well, I'm going to just turn it around and say, like, what's the biggest thing that newcomers do wrong to group policy?
Okay,
right? Like,
let's do that.
Like that's typical. I think that's sort of slightly different, and we've actually kind of already covered that, which is people who are trying to do user-side stuff and trying to jam it into computers. I find to be either the number one or number two thing that people do wrong, because they think, oh, well, why doesn't it pick it up? That makes sense even in my brain. It feels like it should work. Why doesn't it work? That's the first thing. The second, like, kind of, is this full confession time? This is Ask Me Anything, so maybe I'll just confess anything, which is,
this is now the after hours part.
I would argue that
after dark.
It's probably unlikely that many people do more work in group policy than I do, and yet I still make the same mistakes over and over and over again, which is I often will join computers to the domain, and where do they show up by default? In the computers folder. And then I run GP update 9,000 times, rebooting the machine another 300 times. Nothing's going on. It's working on the user side, but it's not working on the computer side because I failed to move the computer from computers to my wherever the heck it is OU. So like, I know that's not exactly what you were asking me, but that to me I think is helpful.
I still do that.
Yeah,
I still do that.
I make that mistake like maybe 20 times a year. So
because generally I don't apply. There's some very base level things that I'll apply at that level, but usually you're breaking them down more, and you have to move that to the proper OU.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have any more questions?
And our final question of the show. What's up with the Microsoft tweets last night on group policy? Is it really dead? The fabulous Jeremy
Wait a
Moskowitz.
minute.
I know this guy.
Hold on a second. So I didn't actually technically ask my own question.
No, we made this
Okay,
up.
good. So I appreciate this
broke our own
question,
rule.
obviously, since theoretically it's mine. I did not really ask this. So a lot of you know me from gpanswers.com, and this is my website where I talk about all things that are active in group policy, and of course I do my group policy training and my group policy health check here, and lots of free stuff. But one of the things that's very, very important and very popular now, that's very hot right now, is this blog article I wrote called The Why Group Policy is Not Dead Manifesto.
That was a great. I read that, by the way, right when it came out. And
Thank you.
I thought it was great.
Well, I just updated it last night.
Okay.
Because, I'm not going to obviously read the whole blog article to you, but I do want to point out like 2 or 3 things. The first thing is that, like I said, the reason I wrote this is that from time to time, people will walk right up to my face and say the following: Microsoft has told me that group policy is dead. What do I tell my boss? I don't think you tell your boss anything, because group policy is not dead. And so, like, what I try to do is go through in this article and describe all the current rationale. In fact, the most important piece is that Brad Anderson, like the #1 dude with enterprise client and mobility at Microsoft, pointed to this blog entry at the Windows Intune blog that has this chart, and this chart is the chart.
It nails it.
This chart is not my chart. This is a Microsoft chart, and it's easy to understand. Hold on, even I can understand this. Is the device domain joined? Are most of your computers domain joined, sir?
Sir, yes, sir.
Then, if the answer is yes, then you should manage with group policy and alternately third-party tools such as PDQ deploy and/or config manager or whatever you want. Okay, that's it. The rest of the chart doesn't matter if you're following my drift.
Let's put it this way: Are you planning on abandoning your domain?
If the answer is yes, you can read the other half of the chart. If you're not planning on abandoning your domain, let's read the chart again. Is the device domain joined?
Yes.
Then manage with group policy and/or third-party tools like config manager or PDQ.
But does that mean it's dead?
Okay, so let's continue down the road. So yesterday, something very important happened. I updated this blog entry, okay, the group policy manifesto here, and I'm going to get right to the important part. So on May 10th, if you don't know who this gentleman is, Jeffrey Snover at Microsoft is a very important guy. He ostensibly owns kind of all of Windows now. He's a technical fellow, and which means like he's sort of like one of the godfathers of Microsoft. He is very important, and not to mention maybe the nicest guy you'll ever meet. Okay, so the point of the story is remember the commercials in the 80s when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen.
Yeah.
Remember that? Okay, so yesterday, 2 days ago, he tweeted the following, and I got a lot of emails in my inbox, as you might expect. And this is what he tweeted: "Desired state configuration is the replacement for group policy. It provides better semantics for server scenarios." And then very quickly, right after, he clarified that, because it sounds like, well, that's it for group policy. He then clarified that, this is his tweet: "Group policy is very well suited for client scenarios like Windows 7, 8.1, and 10, which is why you saw a lot more group policies in Windows 10. So long story short, if you want to read the rest of this article, it goes on, and the general gist here is that group policy is not dead. There's different management systems that Microsoft provides between group policy and Intune and PowerShell DSC and MDM and a lot of other things, and I describe when you should use the right tool for the right job. And today, I can't know 10 years in the future, but I know today, the right tool for let's read the chart one more time. Is your device domain joined?
Yes.
Then you should manage it with group policy and/or third-party tools like config manager and PDQ.
All right.
That's it. That's as simple as it can get, but the blog entry goes into a lot more excruciating detail.
Takeaway: subscribe if you're not. Subscribe to his blog, GP Answers, you guys. Hey, here we're over camera 2 now.
Okay.
See, we're just trying to mess with you.
Yeah, seriously. But
Hey,
I saw that one coming this time.
dude, thanks for coming to Salt Lake City.
Super fun.
This was great. I hope you guys liked it. Check back. Obviously, we do this once a week, and keep an eye out for the new GP Answers Policy Pack videos that are coming out.
That we did together.
That we did yesterday.
Super fun.
All right, you guys, rock on.
Thanks so much for coming. Take
We'll
care,
see you.
everybody.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining. Wendy F. and Nick T., you are our swag winners, so if you'll please email me at webcast@adminarsenal.com so I can hook you up. That's Wendy F. and Nick T. Also, for our raffle today for the book, Bill H. and Jason B. will be getting in touch with you to get that shipped out to you. Be sure to join us next week. Sign up at adminarsenal.com/webcast to join us for future webcasts. We'll see you guys next Thursday.